Funding for this channel is provided by viewers like you. Thank you. What's up, punks? I almost spilled my tea. Did I spill my tea? We did not. Welcome to video. I'm a little low energy today. She's a wee bit jet lagged. I did recently come home from seeing my family for the first time in almost 3.5 years. So emotionally, spiritually, physically recovering. I'm just so happy and so lucky that I had the opportunity to go see them because I missed their faces. So I figured since we're a month away, it was time to announce that the Read-A-Thon that Kirsty and I hosted last year is returning to youtube.com, to instagram.com, to the internet.com near you. And that is the Bloomin Read-A-Thon. Can you see it? The Bloomin Read-A-Thon. That made it worse. Here, movie magic, the Bloomin Read-A-Thon. So this is a readathon that takes place during the entirety of November. It simply encourages you to read more. There's no pressure. You can break the rules if you want. You can share as much or as little on social media as you feel necessary. These online readathons are very similar to what you would find at your local library in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you have specific reading challenges, you track some reading goals, you get more reading done. It's as simple as that. I will let you know right now that nothing has changed from last year. Absolutely nothing. If you would like to track your own bingo board, either digitally or print it out physically. Owie. Ooh, that fell right on the ball of my foot. Like right on it. And we're back. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that hurted morale just a little bit. That really did. I'll just hold it now because I think this is what made everything go wrong. If you would like to keep track of your own bingo board in a highlight on our Instagram, you can hold your thumb on it, screenshot it, do whatever you need to do. I love to see what everyone makes during this month. It was so much fun last year. I think there were about 300 to 400 people on STORYGRAPH participating and so many people in my Discord and so many vlogs and Instagram posts, and it was just incredible. So it's just a lot of fun to see everybody excited about reading. So, you know, if seasonal depression is starting to strike, if you feel as though you need a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a community, a little bit of some inspiration to read more, to blast through your TBR in the last months of the year, this is a fun way to do so. If you want, starts on the 1st of November, ends on the 30th of November. You can do whatever you want with the bingo board. I'm not keeping track of you. There is no grade, there's no test. But what we're gonna do in today's video is break down a tentative TBR. Hopefully I can give you some inspiration for each of the spaces, kind of help you understand what the spaces mean. Just do what you want is the theme. I'm gonna stop rambling. Let's go through all these books and all these spaces. Starting with row 1, okay? Easy peasy living greasy. The first space is the B space, which is to read something that has a little bit of buzz around it. You know, just one of those books that you've heard so much about, everyone's talking about it, you're gonna jump on that bandwagon. For me, that book is, I'm so afraid of this stack now, Notes on an Execution by Dania Kukafka is a book that a lot of people that I know have read and a lot of people that I know gave very high ratings. And the concept is very interesting. It follows a man who's on death row, and I believe it's the last 12 hours of his life, and you bounce between different women from his life and their perspective of him and his life. Apparently it has a lot to say about moral ambiguity. Apparently it raises a lot of great questions, and it doesn't tell you how to feel, which I think is difficult to do and good and important, and hopefully I like this one as much as everyone else does. The second space in the first row is the cloud space, and this space is just to read something that'll make you emotional. You can pick the emotion, but seeing as it's a cloud, I just interpret it as sad. So for this one I chose My Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion because this follows Joan Didion in the year after her husband's passing, and I myself am married to a husband, and that is my worst nightmare. That sounds horrible. So I think a lot of books will make me emotional, but this really hits the nail on the head as far as specific fears are concerned. The next space in this row is the sun space, and this is the opposite of the cloud space. This is to read something that will make you happy. So I picked a book that my Discord recommended to me, and it is Bingo Love Jackpot Edition ? There's 60 pages of bonus material, allegedly, according to it being the Jackpot Edition. The back says, take a trip through time with Hazel Johnson and Mary McRae as they fall in love at church bingo in 1963, break up because of pressure from their families, and reunite nearly 50 years later. So not only is this lesbian love, but it follows older people, which is so rare. There are not enough stories that follow the lives, feelings, and experiences of older people. So the fact that there's a graphic novel that does so, plus it's happy, thank you so much for recommending this one to me. I'm so excited. Up next we have the moon space, which is to read a book that takes place in another country. So some kind of translated fiction, branch out a little bit. And the reason for this is because we all sleep under the same moon. This space is in hopes that in reading stories from somewhere far away, you will realize just how similar we all are. So for this space I chose Heaven by Miko Kawakami. Earlier this year I read something by Miko Kawakami that made it on my favorite shelf, and so the pressure is on to read more from this author, but also I'm so excited and have a lot of confidence in it. It follows a 14-year-old boy who is relentlessly bullied. I hear it's really sad, but it's on the shorter side, so I suppose we'll see how we fare, won't we? Seeing as this is a sad book, this could count for the cloud space, this could count for a couple of spaces. If you would like to double up on points, by all means, do your thing. But this especially counts for the moon space because it is translated fiction from Japan. And the final space on this row is the tree space, which is to read a non-fiction book. So either a book where you learn stuff or a memoir, an autobiography, something like that. A true story or true facts. I don't need to explain non-fiction to you. You're watching a book channel. I have a couple of examples for this. The first one I chose myself, which is Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. I'm just so shocked that I haven't read this one yet, and I feel as though it needs to be done before the year is up. I have quite a few non-fictions that I really want to get around to. Another one of them being our Pocket Pages book club for the month of November, which is As Long as Grass Grows by Dina Gilio Whittaker. The indigenous fight for environmental justice from colonization to Standing Rock. Will she get around to both? Is she biting off more than she could chew? Very much, maybe, possibly. We'll see. And that's it for the first row. We're already 1/5 of the way through. She can do math. Second row, first space being the daffodil space. And this is to read a book that follows non-romantic love. So either strong family connections, you know, sibling bonds, or just really great friendship. And for this, I chose Sweet Bean Paste by Durian Tsukigawa. This one apparently follows a man with a criminal record and his unlikely friendship with an elderly woman named Toku. I've heard nothing but good things about this one. I hear it is so pure, so sweet, so good. So definitely fits the daffodil space. Could fill the happy sunshine space. Could fill the fertilizer space, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. One thing at a time. Up next is the cacti space. And this is one of the spaces that generated the most confusion last year. What this space is for either a shorter book or anthologies, because cacti don't require as much of your human time to take care of it. So the thought with this space is similar. Pick a book that will take not as much of your time, but also anthologies, which can be longer. Again, do what you want. For this, I picked Audre Lorde's poetry collection, The Black Unicorn. So not only is this one super tiny, so it won't take up a lot of my time, but it's also poetry. So there are less words on each page. Fits the prompt. Up next, we have the variegated space. Plants that are on the rarer side. So what this space requests you to do is to pick a book that you don't hear a lot about. This is kind of like the opposite of the buzzy space. For this one, I chose Where They Burn Books, They Also Burn People by Marcos Antonio Hernandez. As of right now, this book has 106 ratings and 13 reviews. I personally haven't seen anything about this book except for the author themselves promoting it on TikTok, and I bought it immediately. So it bounces between the 1500s and the early 2010s, and it covers how the Catholic Church burned a lot of Mayan knowledge, books, and uprooted centuries of indigenous traditions. Definitely a really great book to read for November. Okay, the next space in row 2 is the propagation space. Now, a propagation is a cutting from a mother plant to make its own roots to become its own plant. So what this space is for is to read something that has an adaptation. So a book that was then made into a movie, or a book that became a video game, something that has another form of media. Think of Coraline, think of Fight Club, think of the Chronicles of Narnia, something like that. What I didn't know was an adaptation, and I'm so excited because this is one of my most hyped books personally, is A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. Why I'm particularly excited about this one is that apparently the protagonist is very neurodivergent coded, and I myself, I'm really looking to devour as many books that have autistic characters since getting my diagnosis earlier this year. On the back it says, Ove is almost certainly the grumpiest man you will ever meet, and doesn't say much else at all. I don't know what this book is about except for this man called Ove, but it made Jack Edwards cry, so. And the last space in row 2 is the spider space, and this is to read a dark book. What does that mean? Once again, whatever you want. It could be a book that covers darker topics. It could be a book that has the word dark in the title, or maybe just a dark cover. Literally, whatever you want. Drink whenever I say, do whatever you want. For this space, I chose a dark academia book that I've been looking forward to, and it is Babel by R.F. Kuang. R.F. Kuang wrote The Poppy War, which is a trilogy that thoroughly impressed me in 2021, and I definitely do not consider myself a dark academia person. In my opinion, dark academia is just rich people making problems for themselves because their lives are too easy. But, if anyone can make me like this genre, I feel like it's R.F. Kuang, and I hear it's really good. And I did pre-order the Waterstone special edition, but then Belgium rejected it, so we have a plain old paperback. It's fine. Not bitter. Row 3. Space 1, lotus space. Because much like how lotuses grow through the mud, despite all odds, us disabled folk certainly do grow through all the adversity that is thrown our way. Don't we? Go us. And for this space, I chose yet another book that y'all recommended to me in the Discord. It is technically my job to get you to read books, but it's a two-way street, obviously. Care Work, Dreaming Disability Justice, which is a non-fiction by an autistic author, explores the politics and realities of disability justice, a movement that centers the lives and leadership of sick and disabled queer, trans, black, and brown people with knowledge and gifts gifts for all. It just seems so good. The cover is so impressive, and my friends in the Discord swear by it. So I'm really excited. This could count, of course, for the tree space because it is a nonfiction. I doubled up on spaces last year. I'll probably double up on spaces this year. This is the third nonfiction I think on the list, so I might be reaching for the stars. But also when it's cold out, I tend to read more nonfiction. So we'll see what the future holds. Next space is the succulent space. Seeing as succulents grow in hotter climates, this is a book that will make you hot. Open for interpretation. You can take it as hot, like so angry, or hot as in spicy, sexy hot, whatever you're in the mood for. Last year I literally read a book where children catch on fire, but this year I'm going sexy hot, and I chose The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. So this is a romance about a woman who's gonna get married, but then she doesn't get married, and then she falls in love with the best man, I suppose. It's enemies to lovers, which I have been calling hating to loving for far too long, embarrassingly long. I read online that this has pretty high spice levels. Let me know how spicy you thought this book was if you read it. Succulent space. Up next is the free space, which is as self-explanatory as it can get. You get a point off the get-go. How exciting. But after that is the lily space, which is less exciting because this one is the death space. I chose Ruth Ozecki's The Book of Form and Emptiness, about a little boy who loses his father, starts to hear voices. But I think it's in a magical realism way, but maybe in a mental health way too. I don't know. Haven't read it. That's why it's on my TBR, obviously. It'll be my first time experiencing Ruth. Not like that. And the final space in this row is the snail space, which is one of my personal favorite ones for obvious reasons. And what this space is for is to read something that is a slow burn. This is a confusing space. Sometimes, you know, booktubers and book talkers alike will say this book was a slower burn, but we're not making mental notes of that. It's kind of hard to know which books are on your shelf are going to be speedy and which ones will be slower. It's difficult. So this could be a space that you accidentally get a point for if you find one. Or, you know, on STORYGRAPH, it'll tell you if a book is slower paced, or, you know, maybe you want to double up with the tree space because the nonfiction is definitely on the slower side. You're not gonna speed through it as fast. What I'm gonna do, and what I'm so excited for, is read a textbook about slugs and snails. I'm so excited about this. I ordered this without knowing how many pages it was, but I'm so glad that it's as many pages as it is. There are a lot of graphs. There's a lot of math. Is she in the bottom 7% for her age demographic? For mathematics, absolutely. But are there also pictures of snails within in color? You bet. Another nonfiction, but this is my jam. This is all I've ever wanted. I'm making my dreams come true. It smells like school. I love it. Let's move on to row 1, 2, 3, 4. Row 4. Space 1, the water space. So for this one, you just read a book from an author that you're thirsty to read more of. An author that you enjoyed in the past and you're looking to revisit. Is anyone surprised that I chose a Tillie Walden for this space? Because you shouldn't be. I'm very predictable. So this one is Alone in Space, which is a collection of Tillie Walden's shorter stories. Walden is one of my favorite graphic novel artists, one of my favorite graphic novel storytellers. I dream to be Tillie Walden when I grow up, and it's such a beautiful edition, so I'm so hyped. The next space is the fertilizer space, and this is to read something that you know will nourish your soul. For this space, I chose De Beste Bear van de Wereld, which is a collection of Winnie the Pooh stories. Maar in het Nederlands. It's in Dutch. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. My soul is nourished already. The next space is the green carnation space. This is to read a book that either has an author that is on the LGBTQ+ spectrum or features characters that are queer. It's a great and simple space. Seeing as I love the henna wars so much, I picked Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Shakirdar. Another haters to lovers. Is anyone surprised? Not me. Once again, predictable. 2 girls in high school, 1 popular, 1 academic. But as they get closer, things get messy. Can 2 Bengali girls find happily ever after even when the odds are stacked against them? I sure hope so. The next space is the tulip space, and this is your chance to read a romance book. Even though technically in the TBR that I've already gone through in this video, there are a couple of romances, but just for the sake of having a book for each space, I chose The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. Speaking of autistic characters, this one features a woman on the spectrum. Our protagonist is autistic, so I'm so excited. Also, what a fun concept. It's about a woman who wants to settle down and find a husband, and she wants to understand dating and love a bit more, so she hires an escort, and I assume they fall in love and touch butts. What else could you want? The next space was a very educational space for me last year, because up next is the ladybug space, and what this space is for is to read a book with a cute or simple outside cover, but you know will ruin your life on the inside. And this is meant to be inspired by the fact that ladybugs are pests to your garden. And I got so many comments saying that ladybugs were great for your garden, and they are. It all depends on the ladybug. Anyway, I chose Tuesday with Morrie for this space because the outside is so plain and simple and mundane, but apparently it packs a punch is what I hear. This could also fit the daffodil space perfectly because it's about an unlikely friendship. This could also fit the fertilizer space because I hear that it's really soul nourishing. It's got a lot of great life lessons. We are down to the final row. The first space being the root space. And this is to revisit or reread a book from your roots. You can go back as far as you like. You can read a childhood favorite. You could read your favorite from last year. Do whatever you want. You already know. I chose Lumberjanes for this one because, as I said in my favorite graphic novels video, if you haven't checked it out, go for it. Lumberjanes was the first graphic novel that I've ever read ever. It's what introduced me to graphic novels, and D. Stevenson is the reason that I have an entire graphic novel shelf. So this is just about a group of gals camping and kicking ass. Magic. Friendship. Incredible. It's so good. I'm so excited. Up next is the Earth Space, which is to read a book that was either published or takes place before the 1990s. For this, I chose Toni Morrison's Beloved. Can we take a moment to appreciate how beautiful this edition is? This is Toni Morrison's most popular book, and it takes place in America during the 1800s. It follows a mother and her son. I hear it's heartbreaking. Oh, this could fit the ladybug space, because look at how beautiful, but I know it's gonna ruin my life. You know what I mean? Is that clearer? I hope so. The next space is the Ivy Space. This space is to read something that is very highly rated. I chose a book that could fit both the Bee Space and the Ivy Space because Holy Guacamole is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Sevin. So highly rated and also so highly talked about. This is also a book that could fit the Daffodil Space because friendship. I think it's a book that could fit the Ladybug Space because how beautiful, but also I hear it's kind of a lot. Chapter 7 specifically, according to TikTok. But this follows two friends through their entire lifetime. It's very heavily video game related. They're making video games, they're playing video games, all of the above. Money, fame, duplicity, tragedy, a dazzling imaginative quest. Sign me up. Up next, our second to last space, the dandelion space. Much like weeds in your garden. A confirmed pest, though beautiful, right? Love me a dandelion. This is to read a book that you've had on your TBR forever. Get her out of there. You need to weed that book from your TBR. I kind of put a little twist on this one because I've had Memoirs of an Imaginary Friend by Matthew Dix / Matthew Green because the UK got mad that the word Dix was on their bookshelf. I've had this book on my TBR since 2018. Well, my online TBR. I recently bought it secondhand just this past summer, but seeing as I've been wanting to read this one for so long, I figured it was time. This book is such a fun concept. It follows a 5-year-old boy. He has an imaginary friend. It's from the imaginary friend's perspective. I'm so excited for this one. I'm so excited for this one. The imaginary friend's name is Budo. Stop. And finally, we have the Mole Space, which is to read a book that has a strong antagonist. This is another space that raised a little bit of confusion because how are you supposed to know how antagonisty the antagonist is until you read it? Fair feelings. That's why I put a twist on my own bingo board because I chose That Dead Man Dance by Kim Scott, which is a book about indigenous people facing the first colonization in Australia. It says throughout Bobby's young life, the ships have been arriving, bringing European settlers to the south coast of Western Australia. That Dead Man Dance is haunted by tragedy, as most stories of first contact between Europe and native peoples are. I figured, what bigger antagonist truly is there than colonization? Do what you want. So that is it for the Bloomin' bingo board, baby. Will you be reading with us? Please let me know your tentative TBR in the comments down below. Make your own TBR video if you'd like. I'd love to see it. I will link my Instagram and my fellow host Kirsty's everything in the description down below. Whatever you do, make sure that you tag whatever you post with hashtag #BloominRat because that is the hashtag that we will be keeping our eyes peeled for the Read-A-Thon. I'm so excited. Please join us. I love this community. I love getting extra hyped about reading and seeing as I'm somebody that tends to get a little bit of the sads towards the end of the year. This really boosts my spirits. It definitely did last year. So please join us this year. I'm so excited. And of course, thank you so much to everybody on Patreon who make it possible for me to upload as frequently as I do. Y'all really do keep the lights on, as they say. And I appreciate it so much because I'm having a blast doing this with y'all. And as always, thank you for clicking, thank you for caring, and thank you for being nice. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!